Hello snowboarders of the internet, I am your host TC and today I will be reviewing the Capita Megadeth. This board is equipped with Capita's Alpine V1 profile, so what that is you're going to have camber in between your feet here, outside of the inserts, a few inches past that, you'll have rocker in the nose. Once you get outside the inserts in the back, it'll be flat with a very tiny rocker section right on that contact point. So what that's going to do is it's going to give you all of that drive, snap, and power you're looking for out of the midsection and the tail. And that nose is going to allow you to get in and out of turns easier and float into powder if you decide to go there with it. This board comes in a 156, 157 wide, 159, 161 wide, 162, and a 165 wide for the big shooters. I rode this board at Copper Mountain where it was a sunny, brisk day. As the day rolled on, it did get windier and warmed up a little bit. The clouds never actually blew in, but the corduroy was absolutely pristine, where towards the end of the day, it did turn into some push piles, but really nothing to speak of that I really couldn't handle or anything like that, or you couldn't keep your speed through. And as it warmed up towards the end of the day, it definitely got to be that hero snow where it didn't get soft, but you could really trust your edge and lay it down super hard. I used my Ride Fuse boots and Jones Mercury bindings. When it comes to flex, you look at this board, you look at all of the carbon in it, and you're like, holy shit, this thing is gonna be a plank. When it really isn't, it is gonna be on the stiffer side of things, but it's not super planky or anything like that where it still will flex. I would say when you do torsionally flex it, it's a real bitch to flex actually, just because of how it is constructed. It wants to keep that rigidity through so you're not like foot steering or anything like that. Now, when you get into the stability portion of it, it is insanely stable. It's a damp board, but has lively tendencies, so it wants to spring you into the next turn. When you load this thing up in a turn, you'll notice it flexes. I really don't say it flexes, I say it pops you into the next turn just with how much energy this board stores in it. For a board that wants to stay on the ground and pretty much just rip an edge, this thing has got crazy pop to it. It doesn't take a lot to load up just because of you having that flat section to the tiny bit of rocker on the tail. It allows it to load up, but it returns all of that energy from the center of the board, from that camber zone, where it feels very stable on the takeoff and extremely stable on the landing, where I did end up hitting a couple jumps with it, having to take a few speed checks into it just because of how fast this thing actually is, and it still went bigger than pretty much any other board out there, where when you flex into this thing to load it up to ollie, it felt like you were pretty much taking a slap shot on a hockey stick. It was just crazy snappy and just returned all that energy, launching you into the air. Avran said I was twice overhead on a medium-sized jump, which I don't think I've ever done before, and still had no problem with the landing. Cut the last bit of transition and just hauled ass right out of it. If you're enjoying this video, make sure you like, subscribe, click that bell, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of our scheduled programming we have coming out. You can butter on it. I wouldn't recommend it. This thing isn't made for it. Like, that's more of like a rally car, where this is more of an F1 performance based like board, really, where you can get out on that nose. You're going to put a lot of effort into it. That sweet spot's going to be right at this little skull here, but I really wouldn't recommend doing it when you are buttering or anything like that. It's going to want to pick up speed and it's just going to want to carve, so it's a waste of time on it. Just rip a carve on it instead of butter. This board was made to carve. This board was made to go fast, hold an edge, and pretty much do everything carving. So whether it's from those short, quick carves, which it gets edge to edge extremely fast, or those medium or longer carves where it just holds its edge, carries speed, picks up speed during the carve, and you really don't feel it that much, or even Euro carving, as long as you just stay right over this board and just give it the power that it needs, it's gonna hold you. The main point I want to get across with this is that's what this board excels at, is speed and carving. That's really what it's good for. Keep it on those groomers because it's going to be as stable as you need it to be, where it just goes and it wants to keep going. I was able to pull away from Avran when we were carving together. He's got an extra 20 to 30 pounds on me. I just pulled away from him, looked back, and he was just almost looked like he was standing still. That's what I want to get across, is this thing is fast and it carves really hard. Rider in mind. This board is made for that advanced rider in pretty much every facet, but they just need this board to go fast and just rip hard carbs on. This is not their daily driver. This is like bring this thing out when it's perfect corduroy, you got a wide open groomer to yourself. It's not gonna be the board for when you need to weave in and out of small children or anything like that. You might end up just blowing right through them and not even noticing with it. If you're looking to get a little bit more involved or support us a little further, why don't you head on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. Sure, I could explain it here, but we have a great video over there getting into it really in depth. I love this board. It was super fun. It definitely has its day. It is not a daily driver. And contrary to popular belief, we had one of, I don't even know if they're a fan or if they just want to talk some shit, but they said that this was the most warranted board that Capita's ever made, which is definitely false if you ever have heard of the Stairmaster or anything like that. But that being said, this board is not made for going out, hitting rails, going into the trees, going and hitting rocks or anything like that. It's a very low profile, thin board, and that pretty much translates into it not being the most durable board out there. But as long as you keep it on the groomers and you keep it to what it's made for, it's gonna hold up for you. It's not gonna blow out or anything like that. It just doesn't have the most durable base on it or anything. So keep that in mind. And honestly, super great board. Definitely not a daily driver, but an awesome board for sure. Comparable boards, the Arbor GPS, the Jones Freecarver 9000, and the Nitro Pantera. Recommended bindings, the Union Falcor, the Jones Apollo, and the Rome Katana Pro. This has been my review of the Capita Megadeth. Why don't you go check out one of the reviews for the recommended binding so you find the perfect binding for your riding style.